This is the 19th Tee podcast. Kieran Marsh, Nathan Drudy back with you for another week. Drudy's back on the camera for another week. Still getting used to seeing your face every Monday evening.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that I've got to look at the camera. I always look at myself down in the Zoom corner, or I'm back on the laptop or doing something else when I really should be paying more attention. So I will endeavour to do that this week.
A bit of feedback on the video appearances from last week's episode. Also, a good bit of feedback on our proposed new format, which we're going to be rolling into beginning this week. So if you missed last week's episode, we did flag a bit of a change format-wise. We're going to split the episodes into two per week. I think probably a couple of different purposes and goals out of this, Drudes. One is to isolate the results. And so we're going to talk primarily and almost purely results of a Monday evening from the weekend's events. And then we're going to separate out into a second episode per week, just general golf discussion. Another
crap. All the other shit that we don't have a spot for, like college football, Formula One, and all that sort of rubbish that we like talking about.
And also, I think the goal is to keep these at a more digestible length. So we're aiming for 30 minutes a pop. We'll see how we go. But this is the first week of that format. What we should do, though, as we do at the top of each and every episode, Drew, is thanks to our great friends at Gage Roads Brewing Company, WA's premier craft brewery, named after the strip of ocean between Rottnest and Fremantle, is cracked open for me this week. It is a side track.
And I'll just preface this for the next probably 10 to 12 weeks, it'll be a sidetrack because that's what's in the fridge and is cold. So I'll burn through that, get heavily into summer, single fin, back to sidetrack. So that's how we'll be.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Also sidetrack for me for the next 10 to 12 weeks because I won't lie. And the same thing happens every time we get the re-up from our great mates at Gage Roads. I got a little bit excited. I maybe got out a bit out over my skis, bit of Jesse Mendoza, probably had a few beyond the episodes, shall we say, of the lager as well. So it'll be sidetracked for me for the next few weeks. I'll tell you what isn't getting sidetracked, Drews, and we love a segue, is the European Tour, or should I say the DP World Tour. And that will form, I'd say, the primary part of our second episode this week, is discussing that announcement and the ramifications for Australian golf. But the DP World Tour, into its penultimate event in terms of the race to Dubai over the weekend. We're going to talk primarily Minwoo Lee here, I would have thought. But in terms of how the weekend finished, it was, of course, a win for, do you say Joachim? How would you say that, Drew? So Joachim Hansen?
Yeah, Joachim Hansen. That's where I'm going with.
Yeah, so Joachim Hansen, a one-stroke winner, Francesco Laporta and the cheeseburger, Bernd Wiesberger, in a tie for second. And then it was Minwoo Lee amongst a group that finished back in a tie for fourth alongside Antoine Rosner, Andy Sullivan, and the Jazzman, Jazz Janawatananon from Thailand there at 20 under. An entertaining event, Drewster. We are in the first of 2 weeks in Dubai, as I said, the penultimate event of the season before what is really the European Tour's Tour Championship next week. But Minwoo Lee is really hitting his straps. He is up to fifth in the standings now. So he is right amongst it as we head to the last event of the season in Europe.
Yeah, another just really strong performance, another consistent performance as well. I mean, 4 consecutive rounds of 68 or better. And then even looking back into the Portugal Masters, 3 rounds in the 60s there. So 7 out of his last 8 in the 60s. I mean, you can go back and extrapolate that stat as much as you want, but essentially 5 rounds out of the last 5 tournaments, he's shot 70 plus. So playing incredibly well. And I mean, it certainly wouldn't at all surprise if he went out and had a win next week, Marshy, I don't think.
No, not at all. I mean, he did jump up a spot. He entered the week in 6th in the standings and he's up to 5th. There's not too many playing in better form than him, as you flagged. I mean, you look at the winners, Hansen is in 43rd position overall, so he's been playing a lot of fantastic golf leading into his win this week. Laporta 35th. Wiesberger is probably the one that stands out. He's 10th overall in the standings. But everyone that kind of in that top 10 of the week, Minwoo is clearly the consistent and form player based on the point standings in the race to Dubai. So, yeah, I think it's obviously been a place where we've had a little bit of luck. Of course, Lucas Herbert with the win there a couple of years ago, but I think Drewster really, it could well be Minwoo's tournament to lose, particularly after the news that John Rahm will not fly to Dubai to contest this event next week. So in terms of the strength of field and the larger names flying in, Minwoo's in with a red hot chance next week.
Yeah, he is. What's your take on Johnny Rahm not heading over?
Oh, I think it's probably just had enough golf, to be fair.
And that's what he said.
And I think I've heard him speak a number of times just about, I'm reticent to use the term burnout because it's overused these days, but, he's a young father. I think he's had an incredibly busy, probably 3 years now. And I wonder whether or not he thought there was anything more to add in terms of flying to Dubai for, a week and competing in a tournament only to come back. Had it been on mainland Europe, on the continent, might have been a different story. It's just a little bit further. And I wouldn't read too much more into it other than to say that he's probably just played enough golf and is ready for rest.
Can I just say, how much this puts the European Tour into perspective in the PGA Tour's players' minds? If this was a PGA Tour sanctioned event that was, John Rahm's not pulling out of the Tour Championship, right? Regardless of where that's going to be. If that was played in Dubai, he'd be there. So, for me, it's a pretty telling sort of statistic, or not a statistic, is it a telling attitude from Johnny Rahm as to say, well, actually, you know what, I can't actually get over there. And all the reasons that he said were completely valid. But for me, it just kind of highlighted how far behind the European Tour is on the PGA in comparative to the PGA Tour.
And it's funny too, isn't it? I think maybe in many respects, the closer these two tours come together, particularly with the strategic alliance now, it probably gives these players more cover to not travel to Europe.
Yeah.
In many respects, the further apart they were, it was a distinct advantage to the European Tour to maybe lure the bigger names like Rahm and McIlroy, even Morikawa, across for 1 or 2 events a year with big purses. But I think the closer the two tours walk hand in hand, there's no real need for them to head to events like this. So it will have its consequences, albeit it will prop the European Tour up money-wise for those 3 years between Ryder Cups where they struggle, but certainly have its ripple effects. And I'm looking through in terms of, I kind of flagged Minwoo Lee's chances relevant to the strength of field. You scroll down the list of the people who are in that top 50 or 60 who'll be playing in the event in Dubai this week. Tommy Fleetwood really is the name that stands out at me. Paul Casey, who is obviously a quality player, but not in a great deal of form. So there's not overwhelmingly fantastic players hitting it out next week, Drews. And I think that gives me more, I'm buoyed more by that than anything else from Minwoo Lee.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would love to see, and this is kind of my issue with the race to Dubai at the moment, is Colin Morikawa was on there essentially because he played one warm-up tournament leading into the Open Championship and won the Open. And that's what he's in. He's played 9 tournaments that are either sanctioned or co-sanctioned by the European Tour. Billy Horschel's in second. He's played 10. Rahm's played 9. I just think that there should be some element of minimum number of tournaments played. You look down, Tyrrell Hatton's played 13. That's, in my eyes, that's enough. Minwoo's played 20. Fitzpatrick 13. Casey 10. Dick Bland 22. For me, Will Zalatoris in 11th has played 8 sanctioned or co-sanctioned events. That to me shouldn't get you a ticket to the big dance, right?
I wouldn't have thought so, Druids. I also would have thought we'd need far more than 30 minutes to delve into the validity of points and how they're assigned, whether it's on the now DP World Tour or the PGA Tour or really any tour around the world. Points relative to, I suppose, strength of field, skill, overall consistency. It's one of the true enigmas of golf is the points system. We love it when it works for us, but...
It's just playing. It's you haven't played enough games to qualify for finals when you're playing cricket. You got to play a minimum of 6 games. You've got to get in, right? Playing an ineligible player. That's what Colin Morikawa is this week. He's ineligible.
I think that what we see here is another example of how golf has reverse engineered a system in order to reward the players who ultimately may well be lured away by more lucrative pockets. And I think the point system is that, if nothing else, Druids, is a way to legitimately funnel cash to the best and most popular players in the world. What I did want to say about Min Woo is he's stiff, Druids, for mine, not to have my sure shot of the week, which I'm going to get to a little later. But I just wanted to make special mention of Min Woo because he was coming down the stretch, and I was watching this last night, 10th hole, hardest hole on the golf course. And I don't know if you caught this, but sprayed the drive right. It was ambitious to take the driver anyway, because it was, and this is what made it the most difficult hole. The fairway narrowed significantly with a series of large bunkers to the left-hand side around about the landing zone of most drives, kind of like 280 to 300 yard distance. And so a lot of players were pulling the fairway wood off the tee, not Min Woo. He went the full hog and buried his ball right into the crowd. Little bit of, I wouldn't say controversy, but confusion ensued when he went looking for the ball with his caddy. And the rules official was hot on the heels, called time. So you have 3 minutes to look for your ball in the European Tour. The 3 minutes had elapsed. He called time, and almost simultaneously as the rules official called time, a gentleman in the crowd put his hand up and said he'd found it. Now, there's a little bit of back and forth. Turns out he didn't find it. In fact, he picked it up and put it in his pocket because he thought it was just a ball that someone had left behind and forgot about, because it was sitting at the root of a staked tree. Good idea in a professional golf tournament to pick a ball up and put it in your pocket. And there's a lot of back and forth between particularly Min Woo's caddy and the rules official. Some of the other players in his group got involved in the conversation, making sure, I suppose, we're following the rules, but trying to verify the unverifiable. How could you possibly know whether or not the gentleman said that he found it before the moment he said time? They were reviewing the footage from the coverage. Ultimately, he got one of the great breaks, Min Woo, because not only was he allowed to replace the ball without penalty, because it was a staked tree, he was then able to get relief back from the tree, which gave him not the clearest of paths, but certainly a much clearer path than being buried at the root. Long story short, he drops onto the cart path and from about 180 stuffs it to 5 foot. And he was staring down the barrel of being 3 off the tee, and he ends up missing a 6 footer for birdie and ends up parring. But that was stiff, that shot, particularly with the drama surrounding it and the fact that it took about 10 minutes to play the ball. That was stiff not to get my shot of the week, which I will get to a little bit later.
Okay, well, I'll give you mine because mine's on the European Tour. Mine was Antoine Rosner's hole out eagle. Don't know if you saw that one. That was a belting shot. So I've given him. He gets my nod this week. We'll put the read in here, KM, because we'll probably forget to do it later. Of course, the shot of the week presented by the brand new Sure Shot Pinlock 6000 series laser of rangefinders, fastest optics yet, enhanced battery life, and improved ergonomic case, and an internal magnet. The Sure Shot Pinlock 6000 series of laser rangefinders will help you know the distance and play the best shot to get you on the green. I'm looking at, there's one right there. Let's we'll give that away pre-Christmas, I reckon, KM. If we
I was just about to say, what are we, the 15th of November? So it could be a tidy little season's greetings from the 19th tee. Maybe a little Christmas giveaway.
And
for a lucky listener.
This to give away as well.
That's the watch, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, the Sure Shot Axis GPS watch. I'm not a big watch wearer while I play golf, but if I was, this bad boy would be on there. Yeah. So we'll give that away as well as more sunnies. So, geez, we've got
one other thing. Yeah, the gift cupboard over there, Drew. Tell you what, the visitors to your house must think you're doing very well out of this podcast. One other thing to mention on Min Woo, career high 51st world ranking.
Yeah.
As a result of the weekend's performance. You'd be a betting man to suggest he wouldn't improve that again. And of course, you've got to keep in the back of your mind, as we flagged for Lucas Herbert just a few short weeks ago, he creeps inside the top 50, some game-changing invitations, not least of which is the Masters.
Yes.
So it's, to have two guys who we probably humbly wouldn't have suggested would qualify for the Masters in April of next year would be unreal. And I'd love to see them play, alongside our regulars in Smith and Leishman and Scott and J Day if he gets up. So it would be awesome to see those two young Aussies flying the flag at Augusta, and we wish Minwoo all the best in the next few weeks in terms of jumping up in the rankings. Of course, the top 60 Druids go through to play in that final event for the race to Dubai. I just did want to flag Jason Scrivener will be part of that group. He's 15th on the standings at present. So another Aussie in the final event next week. Anything else on the DP World Tour?
No, just
press on.
Yeah, Jay Scrivener finished in a tie for 31st at 14 under. He was the only other Aussie to make the weekend. Scotty Hend missed the cut, 68.72. Don't know if you want to touch on his announcement, Marcy. Don't know if you've seen that one.
I did see it, but I think you'll do it more justice, Drew. It's an important topic, so I don't want to skip over it too long.
Yeah, I'll just pull Twitter up actually to make sure that I get this exactly correct, because I don't want to mess this up. As you said, it is an important thing. So his latest tweet is he was there watching alongside Minwoo Lee and Jason Scrivener watching the Aussies win the T20 World Cup, which we might cover a little bit more of in our Thursday wrap. But no, I'll read Scotty Hend's statement out, if that's right, KM. So he just said, I share this with you in the hope it will get other guys to get in and get checked and not have the issues I've been experiencing. 2021 is almost over. I have been in a bad place pretty much all year, on and off the golf course. Obviously, as I get older, the body doesn't want to behave and work how it was in my 20s and 30s. This is life and the progression of our lives. In December, I will undergo a prostate operation, which, to be honest, I'm shitting myself about. All the what ifs come to mind. I know it can only better my standard of living and maybe help my ability for vino intake. As I've almost had to give up something I enjoy because of the situation, I've found it very difficult to focus on the course when worrying about bladder bleeds and where the next tree will be to relieve myself on. Never mind the nights of sometimes no sleep due to the sudden urge to pee. I almost dread every time I fly. Twice I've had to deal with peeing blood and passing blood clots while at 38,000 feet. Not pleasant to say the least, playing that it won't block up before I land. I've withdrawn from events due to this as well. I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for me at all. I just wish more guys would go to the urologist and get their checkup. There is no shame ensuring your comfort and good health. Do it for yourself. Get checked. So I'm not sure that Scott Hend is a listener of our podcast. I would absolutely love to have him on because he's elitely funny on Twitter. But if he's somehow tuning into this, we obviously wish him all the best for the upcoming surgery and all the recovery that goes with that.
Completely agree, Druids, and I absolutely applaud Scott Hend for his honesty and his willingness to make that statement and be, completely transparent in the hope that it will force others to do the same, because that's spot on from Scotty Hend, and I think it's a fantastic effort from him to put himself out there for the benefit of others. So big pat on the back from the 19th Tee, Druids.
Just a very quick message here from our good friends at The Golf Collective, one of our newest partners. The Golf Collective is Australia's leading online social golf club, allowing members to easily get handicapped for any social round at any golf course in Australia. It's $110 to get a fully managed Golf Australia handicap when you use the promo code 19th T, 19THTEE. Just visit thegolfcollective.co/19th T to sign up. They flick us a little bit of money. That's how sponsorship work. Everyone stays happy and you get to keep hearing these wonderful takes that we know you all love. So go and check out our good friends at the Golf Collective. Yeah. Where do you want to go next, mate?
Let's go to the PGA Tour, the Hewlett-Packard, Houston, Texas. Drew. Sorry, I was just, I should be a little bit more strength of conviction where I was, because, as you say, Texas forever. Ironic, really.
We will cover this very heavily on Thursday's episode, let me tell you, Marshy, because it is one of the all-time great college football losses.
Ironic, Drewster, in the sense of all the talk around Saudi golf of late, that quite literally the face of Saudi golf, Jason Kokrak himself, is a winner again on the PGA Tour.
Man, he looks like a potato, eh? He did say
it's a tough look. It's a tough look.
I mean, look, the guy can play 4 under through the final through the final 6 holes to get the job done and finish 10 under over Kevin Tway. Again, not a particularly strong field on show down in Houston, but we did have Cam Smith leading the way for the Aussies at 3 under and T15. But yeah, tough to catch Jason Kokrak when he's shooting 65, 66, 65.
Yeah, really, really tough. And probably not too many others to mention, to be honest, out of this tournament. To your point, it wasn't an overly strong field. I do like that Memorial Park golf course there in Houston Dredge. I think it offers a little bit of a challenge, and potentially would like to see it get a tournament that would draw a little bit more coverage and attention and strength of field, to be honest. But a couple of quick ones to mention. Scotty Scheffler finished in a tie for second, 2 shots back at 8 under. He shot 8 under in 1 round, Drews, which must be incredibly frustrating for a guy of his talent to know that the score that he finished on, albeit 2 shots back from the winner, was literally his score on Friday. And he ends up being obviously 2 over out on Thursday and then 1 under on Saturday and Sunday to not better his score from round 2. But he may well be, I think, right now the best player to have not won a major. Well, that's a big statement, and probably something we need to pull apart a little bit more comprehensively on another episode. But when he is on, goodness me, he absolutely melts the ball.
He does. I'm just thinking about that statement, trying to think if anyone else comes to mind, but I can't think of anyone off the top of my head right now. I'll have to do some research.
And then just in terms of some other names in that field, Mark Leishman, you mentioned Cam Smith as a leading Aussie at T15, 3 under. Leish was leading, one of 3 co-leaders at 5 under after the first round. And then he goes even 1 over, 2 over to finish 2 under and 8 shots back. So a disappointing limp out the back door for Leish. I'm just scrolling through. Jason Day, Adam Scott, both in a tie for 54 at 5 over. Some names down here. Geez, Tony Finau.
I was just going to mention there was two names here that stood out, both missing the cut. Tony Finau at +2 and Brooks Koepka at +3. So they're probably the only two to really of note there. Cam Davis was +3, missing the cut, and I think that was all the Aussies.
Joaquin Neiman missed the cut at 3 over.
There's a couple of names to miss the cut, but again, look, I wouldn't have thought it would be particularly weighing on Brooks Koepka that he missed the cut at the Houston Open.
No, I just
the Houston Open.
One thing I do want to flag here, Drudes, and it's actually got nothing at all to do with this tournament, but it's been in the back of my mind the last couple of weeks, and I think it's something we should keep our eyes on as we're looking through leaderboards the next couple of months. So we have to cast an eye forward to President's Cup.
Yes, this is true.
For the internationals. So I think you'll find, obviously, it's an away game for the internationals. Is it Quail Hollow? I think it's at I'll pad for long enough for you to find that out. I believe it is Quail. I believe it is Quail Hollow. Yeah, I believe it is Quail Hollow that we're going to. So why I think that's a good thing for the internationals, and we sure as shit didn't think this was going to be on the rundown, so I apologise for the sharp left turn. But why I think that's good for the internationals is you look at Whistling Straits for the Ryder Cup, and everything they set up favoured distance, which is the one thing the Europeans lacked, right? Was length off the tee. And that's the way the Americans set up because it just so happened to be their greatest strength. Now, the team for the President's Cup for the US will look remarkably similar, if not exactly the same. I think maybe Sam Burns might be the guy that sneaks in. I don't know at whose expense, but I think Sam Burns probably sneaks his way into the President's Cup team for the US. Outside of that, I don't see too many changes. I don't see how you can from a team that won so convincingly at the Ryder Cup. It's at Quail Hollow on home soil. They're going to set it up for distance again. Where it plays into the internationals' hands, that's not going to bother us. You look at some of the guys in this international team, particularly, I think some of the South Africans on the absolute fringe, guys like Wilco Nienaber and Garrick Higo, who I think one of whom will absolutely be on the team. You've got to remember that Trevor Immelman is the captain this time around, taking over from Ernie Els. He has 4 captain's picks, and there's guys there that he will absolutely pick for length. Last time I looked at the rankings, Jonathan Vegas was sitting in 8th. He melts the ball. Sung Jae is in there, melts the ball off the tee. So we've got length in this international team, Druids, which I think is a huge advantage going into a President's Cup on American soil.
I've got the current standings here of the international team. Sung Jae number 1, Cam Smith number 2, Louis Oosthuizen number 3, Abe Ansah, Hideki Matsuyama, Eric Van Rooyen, Adam Scott, Mackenzie Hughes, current automatic qualifiers. On the bubble, as they say, Mark Leishman at 9, Corey Connors at 10, Carlos Ortiz, Mito Pereira, Jonathan Vegas, Danny Lee, CT Pan, and then number 16, just the people who are audio listeners won't be able to see this, but I'm going to try and show you that if you can at all see that. But number 16 just says C Bez. That's Christian Bezadenhout. And that,
Battery,
I think he should be selected purely off the President's Cup International Team Instagram, referring to him as C Bez. That is elite.
and we, from this point forward, shall now refer to him as C-Bez.
C-Bez and the Battery. God, that's a good band name.
Yeah, I like that. That's really good. C-Bez and the Battery. So, expect increasing amounts of international team President's Cup discussion on this podcast. One other name I want to mention really briefly, Droots, from the PGA Tour is Matthew Wolff, who finished in a tie for 11th. He's 6 shots back. Not all that remarkable. 2 reasons I want to mention his name briefly. He also, stiff, not to win my short shot of the week. He aced the 9th hole, par 3 today, coming home. Obviously didn't make all that much of a difference because he's gone 2 over for the round and in the final round, but had an ace on the par 3 9th. The other reason I want to mention him, Druids, is he's played 4 tournaments now since his comeback. He's made the cut in every tournament, and of the 12 rounds he's played, he's only shot 3 in the 70s.
Yeah.
So he's shot 9 of his 12 rounds since returning in the 60s. He is in some form, and I've said it ad nauseum on this podcast. He's one of my favourite golfers to watch when he's up and about, because I think he brings so much more beyond just hitting a ball to the game. And I think the game's so much better when he's performing well. So it's really nice to see him back playing consistent golf.
Yeah, he brings a bit of energy and brings a bit of something else as well. I think that's what I like. You hear him on the mics. He's got a bit of Jordan Spieth about that. That Spieth's always really hot on the mics, that you can pick up plenty. So I definitely like watching Matthew Wolff. That swing just doesn't get any more comfortable to watch the more you watch it, does it? It's still awkward, but it gets in such a good spot. Like it is. Yeah, you've watched that downswing and it's right in the slot. So,
and I think
around the corner.
I think the swing perfectly summarizes what I love about him, and that is he didn't try to change. He didn't try to conform to fit golf. He just let Matthew Wolff be Matthew Wolff. The swing works for him. It's not pretty. It probably makes traditionalists squirm, but it works, and he's stuck to his guns, and I think that summarizes the type of guy he is pretty well. So, as I said, really good to see him back. I wouldn't say at the peak of his game, but certainly on the road back towards it, which is a good change from the struggles that he was facing.
A very quick break here to hear from our good friends at Cobra Puma Golf, and they've introduced the first complete lineup of 3D printed multi-material putters our friends at Cobra have. I mean, this is truly phenomenal. We're 3D printing putters in 2021. There's 3 outstanding designs, distinct models. The Grand Sport 35, that's the blade, the Supernova, which is the fang, and the Agera, which is the mallet. So if you're in the market for a new putter, bugger all the rest of them, go and get something that's 3D printed, because that is going to help you hole more putts thanks to our friends at Cobra Puma.
Over the LPGA, Drew, it's the Pelican Women's Championship played in Bel Air, Florida. Wowee, what a finish. I don't know if you saw this. So Nelly Korda seemed to have essentially the tournament in both hands. Triple bogeys the 17th today.
Ugly.
Holy moly. It was a par 3.
Yeah.
Triple bogeys the par 3 17th. Was it a par 4?
Yeah. Had a 7.
Sorry. Sorry.
But still disgusting. Yeah, still gross.
I'll have Marcus Berrettino up my ass for that. Sorry, mate. My apologies. It was par 4. Anywho, she triple bogeyed the 17th, and then she birdies the 18th to get into a 4-way playoff. Now, this is what I wanted to talk to you about. Off the top of your head, can you remember a stronger 4-way playoff than N Quarter Say Young Kim, Lydia Ko, and Lexi Thompson.
No, I can't even remember the last four-way playoff that existed.
Or we went through that patch of like 3 or 4 weeks in the PGA Tour earlier in the year. We had like the 5 or 6 way playoffs.
Yes, but no is the answer to your question.
Yeah, none of those blokes would have collectively done the shoelaces up on either of those 4 women. Phenomenally strong playoff. Thompson, Kim, Ko, and Korda. Nelly ends up getting the job done. Was it on the second playoff hole?
I think so. Yeah, they don't have a great deal of statistics on the LPGA website, so that's annoying.
Let's not get that started because there's absolutely no fucking excuse. Why not?
Yeah.
Nelly Korda wins. The other memorable part of this tournament, Drew, well, 2 from an Australian perspective, and we are finally getting to my sure shot of the week, and that is Sue O, who, and not only was it a fantastic shot, it's my sure shot of the week because it has broader ramifications for Sue O. So there was a hole at the Pelican. I can't remember exactly the hole. You might be able to find that for me as I'm telling the story. Par 3 12th.
Yeah.
Where should you ace the par 3 12th at the Pelican, you walked away with a 2-year lease on a Lamborghini. Not one, not 2, but 3 players. I believe Sue O was the third of 3 to ace and walk away. 3 Lamborghinis drove out the gate in Bel Air, Florida at the Pelican this weekend, Drews, and Sue O was the last. So for the ace and for the next 2 years that she's going to enjoy in the Lamborghini, Sue O wins my my sure shot of the week.
Yes, I've given mine to an eagle hole out over 2 aces, which is controversial. No, but did you see Sue O? She said she's got to learn to drive a manual essentially now. Obviously the Lambos. I reckon the Lambo probably as well, knowing the way that it's structured. It's probably got the flappy paddle gearbox as well. It wouldn't be stick shift, I don't reckon. So
no.
That would take some getting used to. But look, Lamborghini for Sue O. You won't be complaining at all, will you?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. And I mean, she's happy to walk away with the Lamborghini because the results weren't fantastic. She finished in a tie for 52nd. Catherine Kirk, the leading Aussie, in a tie for 40th. And as I'm scrolling down, missing the cut, we had Sarah Kemp, Sarah Jane Smith from an Australian perspective. The only other thing I want to mention, she didn't play in this tournament, but as a result of the way this tournament panned out, Hannah Green was named the winner of the Aon Risk Reward Challenge on the LPGA Tour, Druids. Now, for those not familiar, wouldn't blame you because it's not often spoken about it. When it is, it usually is parodied, the Aon Risk Reward. But what that is Aon, a sponsor of both the PGA and LPGA, they choose a hole at every tour event on both the LPGA and the PGA. Generally, it's Index 1. It's the hardest hole on the course. And then what you do is you take your average score across 2 rounds. So whether that's your first 2 rounds and you miss the cut, or whether it's your best 2 scores across the 4 rounds of the tournament. And then you add up all of your scores from each of the Aon Risk Reward holes across the season. And the player with the best score to par on the average of those Aon Risk Reward Challenge holes walks away with $1 million.
Yeah.
So Hannah Green got the job done at just short of 1 under. I think she was 0.9 something on her average for the year and walks away $1 million richer. Now, it's a much bigger deal on the LPGA Tour, Drews, than it is on the PGA Tour. And there's a direct correlation between that and the amount of prize money available on the LPGA. So I believe Matthew Wolff actually, funnily enough, won it on the PGA, but that's pocket change for Matty Wolff comparative to what he can earn from a prize money perspective. Somewhat shamefully, it's a massive deal for Hannah Green because it almost doubles her career earnings.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it absolutely deserves an acknowledgement tonight. And obviously didn't play in the tournament, but as a result of some fantastic play across the year, she walks away $1 million richer. So a few Aussie females walking away a bit better off than what they were coming into the Pelican Trees. Whether it was a Lamborghini for Sue O or $1 million for Hannah, and just happened to be great mates. So I imagine they might be going for a night down at Crown, maybe when they get back to Perth, drive in a Lambo and bring the $1 million from Hannah. Tell you what.
Make sure you lock the doors. Jesus. Right.
Let's go to the Champions Tour. Drew, it's your favourite
Yes.
tour. Significant for two reasons. First of all, Phil Mickelson wins again, and then Bernard Langer secures his 6th Charles Schwab. Is it the Challenge? Because it's a Charles Schwab Cup.
Yeah.
No, sorry, other way around.
Yeah.
Mickelson won the Charles Schwab Challenge, which was the tournament.
Yeah.
Langer wins the Charles Schwab Cup for the season point standings for the 6th time.
Yeah. Insane. I mean, I don't know what keeps Bernard Langer going around this. Like, the Champions Tour is my favorite tour, but it is a complete enigma. Like, why are these guys continuing to play? Like, I guess it's for the love of the sport, I guess, ultimately, because the cash isn't great. But yeah, a 4-round tournament, which is obviously a little different to what normally is played with 3 rounds. But Phil gets the win by 1 shot over Steve Olker, in fact. So, so Steve having a couple of good weeks, and then Darren Clark, David Toms in 3rd. So, Big Phil, I believe him and Jack Nicklaus are the quickest to get to 3 or 4 wins on the Champions Tour, and it's taken him 6 starts or something, both exactly the same. So set for a big career on the Champions Tour is Phil Mickelson, and I sure as shit hope to see him in the commentary box for some of the PGA Tour events as well, because he's incredibly insightful and incredibly funny.
And then a couple of quick ones to wrap us up this week, Drudes. First and foremost, we spoke last week about the Asia Pacific Amateur for the men's. This week it was the women's turn. We had a couple of fantastic results from Australians. The first one I want to mention wasn't the highest placed. We'll get to that in a moment. But the first one I want to mention is Cassie Porter, who keen listeners of this podcast might remember that we mentioned Cassie Porter's name a couple of weeks ago, and she was the winner of the Women's Capera Bowl a few weeks back here in Brisbane. And she's gone over representing Australia at the Asia Pacific Amateur for Women, and she finished in a tie for, Drew, do you have it in front of you there?
Yeah, 10th outright.
10th outright, sorry, not a tie for. She was 10th outright. But, Drewser, leading the Australian charge was?
Well, I'm just scrolling through Kelsey Bennett.
Yes.
Phenomenal performance, really. I mean, 69, 67, 69, 68. I mean, you look at the scores that are around her, and it's only her and the winner in Mizuki Hashimoto to have not shot a score in the 70s across the 4 rounds. So everyone else around her shooting at least 1 round of 70 or worse, which is obviously still under par. But yeah, you have to. I'm still scrolling down here, and I reckon it's only her and the winner to have not shot around in the 70s at all. So massive, massive result for Kelsey Bennett to finish T2.
And the two of them, just watching a few of the social feeds across the weekend, some phenomenal work around and on the greens. Some huge putts dropping at crucial times for both Bennett and Porter. So a nod to the two of them for a fantastic performance representing Australia at the Asia Pacific Amateur. And then just finally for tonight, Trudes, wanted to make special mention of good friend of the podcast, Louis Dobler, who, I mean, when you talk about starts to your professional career, not bad for a guy who made the decision all but a week ago, and in that space of time has secured status on the PGA Tour of Latino America, Dreads.
Yeah, truly. I don't know. I don't even know what to say here. I mean, he just takes his professional career and starts it in the very best fashion. So really fantastic for a great guy and a chat that I, one that probably ranks comfortably inside my top 5 or 6. I know how many times we've said that on this podcast, but it was a ripping chat with him. He's a great fella, and he went out and had a great performance in his first start. It's a PGA Tour Latino America, I think. Is that?
Yeah, it is. So
right?
just for context, he was at qualifying school in Florida. He needed a top 12 finish to earn status on the PGA Tour Latino America for 2022. Entered the final round and tied for 7th. 2 birdies and a bogey on the front 9 to turn at 1 under 34 before a bogey-free back 9 of 3 under saw him climb 5 spots with a share of second, just 1 shot behind the winner, American Derek Castillo. Full status. Guaranteed starts in the first 8 events of the 2022 PGA Tour Latin America. It's just huge, mate. For a guy, obviously the reigning Australian amateur champion for the men's, a guy that's backed himself, gone over to the States, sought some tour status and has been rewarded. So, yeah, a friend of this podcast and a guy that we are huge on is Louis Dobler. And for those reasons that you said and many more, not just a great golfer, but a fantastic person and a journey that we're absolutely looking forward to keeping an eye on. And also, Drews, you mentioned that chat. If you haven't listened to it, make sure you do go back and find it in the archives. But we will be revisiting a portion of that chat for a very special reason in an interview that we have lined up for next week. Don't want to reveal too much more, but we'll be replaying a part of Louis' interview where he speaks about a person who had an enormous influence in his junior career as a mentor and probably kind of like a big brother figure, really.
Yeah, definitely.
And the effect that he had on him. And that story, I suppose, well, certainly had a sad ending, but there's been certainly a silver lining from that as well. So we've got a special interview coming way of our listeners next week with a little bit more context on that. So make sure you tune in for that. Drew Star, that probably wraps us up.
I think so. I mean, there was obviously the Ladies European Tour had an event in as well, but this was a very confusing team event, individual portion to it. Utterly confused, have no idea. I think it's a scramble. But
another one of those Aramco team series events.
Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, King Solomon Ben Arm, whatever his name is. I do. He probably got the media monitoring on. Sorry. Careful. I do want to make special mention, despite the confusing element of the tournament. So, listeners to this podcast will know great relationship with Whitney Hillier, a player on the Ladies European Tour herself. You will have remembered us mention countless times that her lesser half, I shouldn't say better half, her lesser half, Benny Brewer, is a caddy as well. And he was a caddy on the winning team, Team Pedersen. Believe he actually does caddy for Christine Pedersen because he did so in the Solheim Cup as well. So shout out to Benny Brewer. We did have an Aussie flavour in the winning team of the Aramco team series.
Yep. The race costed us soul wrapping up in a couple of weeks. I think not this week, but the week after, maybe. Hopefully I've got that right.
Steph Kyriakou remains in 4th place in the race to Costa to Sol. So we'll bring you the latest on that as it comes to its conclusion. Wasn't quite 30 minutes.
Pretty good though.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much bang on 40. Okay. So that's a lot better than what we usually do.
Let's wrap it up because it'll take me 4.5 hours to export this thing otherwise.
So that's the results. A little later this week, we'll go deeper into the announcement around the DP World Tour, its ramifications for Australian golf, and a bunch of other rubbish that those interested in results probably don't want to hear us bang on about. So we'll be back on Thursday night. I hope you enjoy the new format. Please do give us some feedback either way, if you do or don't, as well as whether or not you're enjoying seeing our faces week in, week out. Maybe that's a little self-indulgent for both of us.
Maybe.
Until Thursday night, stay safe, Drew. So look forward to chatting to you then.